I hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. It's me, Lauren Conlin, along with our favorite. I say our because everybody always requests Jack Fox. Jack, thank you for being here for the lunchtime live stream.
Thank you for inviting me. I have to say, I read your description last night when you set this up, and it said, I thought you'd said our favorite human. And I was like, well, that's praise indeed. And then it says lie detector at the end of it. I was like, actually, I'm cool with that. I'm down with that. So thank you for that.
There you go. No, really, you are everybody's favorite human lie detector. And you know what? Most likely everybody's favorite here. So I know that I first started watching the Benefield trial last week. I believe it started last week. I was a little bit late, had to catch up. And I am the first one here to admit, Jack, that I went into this trial and I was like, oh, wait, let me get the comments up. Sorry. There we go. Yes, Rachel, we do love Jack so much. Hey, Sheila, and hey, Taryn. Okay. So I went into this and I was thinking, all right, she's young, she's beautiful. She wanted this ballet company. She married someone who was 30 years her senior after 13 days. She wanted him out of the picture. That's how I approach this. I'm not going to lie to you here. And so I was very close-minded to start. I was like, And I had thought that, yes, he absolutely is the best. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And yeah, I thought that both sides didn't do a great job initially of setting everything up for me. I was super confused on this abuse. I had heard that he had never put a hand on her. I had to research psychological and emotional abuse to get more information on that. But generally, I was like, I don't really see anything. Oh, Jay's here. Hi, gorgeous.
Hey, Jay.
So yeah, so I didn't necessarily know about that. I didn't think they set it up properly. And I was kind of on the fence. And I was even on the fence when Ashley first got on the stand, and I'll explain that. But my whole thing is she got on the stand and I was like, okay, I will admit when I was wrong. And people in the chat, people watching, they might completely disagree, but this is how I feel at this moment. I definitely feel like I was wrong. And I did miss something, Jack. And I want to play part of this too, so you can analyze this. But I missed when her defense attorney said, or I heard this, but obviously I missed part of it. He said, I'm going to ask you some tough questions right now. And then he said, why did you shoot Doug, or why did you shoot your husband? I didn't hear her say I feared for my life at first, but she does say that. She says, I feared for my life. I don't know if I was multitasking or whatever I was doing, but all I heard was I felt trapped. So me missing that, you got that, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that part of it. Yes.
Okay. So let's get into that. I do want to play just really quick, just to refresh everybody, like, 2 minutes of it. But yeah, initially I was like, wait, I didn't hear that. And then I think I was on Jay and Bob's stream, and Bob was like, wait, saying that you fear for your life doesn't mean that you're, scared he's going to kill you. And I was like, oh, I guess I missed that. Sure enough, I went back. It was inaudible. I'm sorry. A lot of what she said was inaudible here. So
yeah.
Hello. Okay. Let's go into really quick. All right.
Step.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone.
You got an ad.
Find motivation to do the thing.
Court TV.
To try to avoid anything further.
Yes, I ran to try to leave the house.
And where did you run to?
To the front door.
Did you make it?
No.
Tell us what happened.
He stopped me. He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back. I'm not really sure how he did it, but he spun around so he was in front of me, between me and the door.
So
he said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He said, where the fuck do you think you're going?
What was your response? Do you specifically recall? Tell us.
I just blurted it out. I said, I'm done, and you need to leave now.
What was Doug's reaction to that command to leave now?
He said, you can't fucking leave me.
Then what happens?
He hit me on the side of the head.
Ashley, I'm going to. It's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 7. Tell us what that represents.
It's a picture of my face.
Is it an accurate picture of what your face looked like on that night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to take this down. I don't actually, ew, that looks bad. Sorry. Playing around with it. Yeah. So just wanted to refresh everybody about Ashley's demeanor on the stand, how she answered questions. And again, I saw someone else, aspiring court reporter, say she was torn at first, just like I was. And now she's fully not guilty. And that is where I'm at, even though no one asked. But let's get down to it. Let's get to why we're all here. Jack. Yeah. What, I mean, you should be very sorry. That cough was disgusting. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So please, let's get into it. Let's start with the defense.
So let me start off by saying that I don't analyze victims or alleged victims of abuse lightly. I see nothing to be gained from me getting up and doing a YouTube live or one of my own analysis and going, that abuse victim is lying, when I may be wrong, when people may take the wrong thing from it. I see very little to be gained. So in my private work, I will analyze and give an opinion, but I don't do it very lightly. I won't just jump on and say, yes, this person's telling the truth or not. Having said that, having looked through her testimony, I think she was abused, and she did suffer abuse at the hands of Doug. Her language around that is very simple. It's very clear what happened. So I do believe that she was a victim of abuse, but that is, in these legal terms, is not enough to justify killing someone with a gun. All the way through her testimony, she talks in the past tense, which is what you'd expect when someone's recalling events from the past. Although trauma can make people talk in the present tense, she's consistently in the past tense. I like that. It seems to be reliable. And across everything that she said, across the testimonies, then she's very consistent. When she's answering the questions on direct, when she's answering the questions on cross, her stories do tally with what she said before. She doesn't go off on different places with them. Now, what I want to say, we're all waiting on a verdict, and that is around reasonable doubt, or whether there is reasonable doubt beyond reasonable doubt. I haven't watched this entire trial, so I'm in no place to say whether they've established that or not. What I will look at is what she said. And I've got some issues, I'm afraid. There's that part of me that wants to stick with a victim of abuse, which I believe she is, and go
issues with what Ashley said.
Yeah.
Oh, please. Yeah.
So especially on direct, she is very good at the events leading up to the shooting. She's very good at saying what Doug does. She has to be pressed for what she did. So her part in what's there, I feel, is being stepped over by her. She's only talking about Doug's actions and not hers. Again, look, we're dealing with abuse. We're dealing with someone that is traumatized or been the victim of things for a while. So I'm not saying that anything that she did or said is not warranted, I'm not saying she's a violent, cold person or anything like that.
No, Jack, people want to hear this. We know that you are not exploiting her. We know that you're not saying that you don't believe her. We totally get that. We are here to hear your expert analysis and opinion. So no one's judging. Do not worry.
Cool. So to go to that point, number one, on both testimonies, direct and cross, she says that Doug hit her that I'm guessing it was an evening that day. And it was the first time that Doug had hit her. And the defense tries to put some, it wasn't just a little slap or anything like that. She uses the same words all the time. She's very consistent. He hit me. And she says on this side of the head. But just as an aside, one of the things you can get from statement analysis is a lot about someone's personality. You said, was she a former ballerina or is a ballerina? I don't know. She talks about physical space and stance and leg positions a lot in her testimony. That's obviously how she is wired as a person. And she talks about where she was hit, and it's the side of the head. She's then asked sorry, I've lost my place. She's then asked what did she do? Sorry, let me find the question. What did you do? Wait a minute, let me find here we go. Here's the bit. He says, where do you think you're going? She says, I'm done and you need to leave now. So she says to him, you need to leave now.
Yeah.
What was Doug's reaction to that command? We heard it there. He said, you can't effing leave me. Well, that doesn't flow. She said, you need to leave. I get if he'd said, you can't get rid of me or I'm not going, but it's you can't leave me, which will become, I think why this is sensitive will become later.
Okay.
Then when he gets in the bedroom in her room, does he yell anything at you? He said, you're effing done. So we've got this repetition. She said, I'm done. He's saying, you're done. There's a finality to whatever was happening that night. You know, like this was like the end of a very abusive relationship that goes on. But she doesn't fully answer the questions about what she did. She's very good at talking around what Doug did. And she does own shooting the gun. Like I said, in the events leading up to it, she glosses over, she jumps over what she did. It's all Doug's actions, and what she did has to come out in questioning.
But mind if I ask you something, Jack? Sorry, not to interrupt your train of thought. Just going back to, so what do you make of when she says, you need to leave now, and he says, you can't leave me, or you'll never leave me. So what is that telling us? Is that telling us that maybe it's out of order? And okay.
It doesn't flow, does it? It just, you need to get out. You're never leaving me is not something we would expect to hear. I'm not saying it never happened or that would never happen. What I am saying is it doesn't flow. And I think there's some editing going on there of things that were said or actions that were taken that weren't there. Look, if she is, well, she's on the stand here. She may well be telling a version of the story that plays in her favor there. So it's not lying, which would be wrong, but it's skipping out things. Again, maybe she's skipping out areas where she was provocative. And again, why wouldn't you? If you know what I mean, like you really want to get across that you were scared for your life. So you're going to play down your role in an argument or a spat, if you like, and play up his role.
He probably did say that at some point to her, you'll never leave me, or you're never leaving me. So she probably just had that pop in her head, I'm guessing. But okay, sorry, continue.
In both sets of testimony, so on direct and cross, she talks about being in the room and the door gets flung open and Doug is standing there. In both sets of testimony, she says, I showed him the gun and I said, stop. However, there is nothing to stop at that point. I could understand if he was coming towards her, but she's saying he was stood still. He wasn't saying anything. And she says, stop. So I wonder again, there's just something for me missing there, that he walks in, she shows the gun. Now, if she's scared, she may well want to show the gun as a warning and say, I've got a gun here. But she says, and I said, stop. But she doesn't say stop what? Stop coming towards me, stop chasing me around this house. As I said, stop. Then he gets into this fighting stance. And then she takes ownership and she said, he started coming towards me. So again, she's saying that when she said stop, he wasn't coming towards her. He wasn't approaching. I get it could be threatening, but wasn't coming towards her. And she then says, I start pulling the trigger. So she takes ownership of firing the gun, fair and square. She does take ownership of firing the gun.
Did you see what Dewey said? They said he opened the door. That's pursuit. So stop.
But look, that I get. We're not all
Yeah.
perfect. We won't all say the perfect thing, but told
Okay.
him to stop chasing me or shouted at him to leave me alone or to go away. Stop is very different. So stop implies he was doing something, actually in the motion of doing something, and she said stop. There.
Okay. Okay.
She's asked why by her lawyer, would you tell us why, if you're holding a loaded firearm, you were attempting to move away? And she says, I was trying to get away from him. I was terrified. Now, I was terrified. I believe she was terrified, right? There's nothing to convince us or persuade us there. It's not, I was completely terrified or I was, absolutely terrified. It's I was terrified. I believe that she was terrified. But it's this thing of trying to get away that that gets to me, as we'll come to see when we come later. So let's go to that bit that you wanted to talk about, which is the tough questions.
Yes.
So again, like you, it's very hard to make out. I listened and listened and listened and transcribed the best I could. He says, I'd like to ask you a couple of very difficult questions. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury why you shot Doug. And she says, I'll read you her answer and then I'll tell you what I think of it. I was scared to death. I thought he was going to kill me. I had nowhere to go. I was trapped in my own house. He wouldn't let me leave. Okay. So I was scared to death is an interesting one. That is a phrase you use more in a light-hearted way. He scared me to death. Do you know what I mean? Like, or a shock, like, oh, it scared me to death. And it's got that little bit of convincing. It's not I was scared or I was terrified, like she said earlier. It's he scared me to death, which was an interesting choice of words. Then she does say, but she stumbles. I thought he was going to kill me, but she doesn't say why. She's talking about him approaching. I get that scary. She's talking about him in this fighting stance, moving his arms in a jerking motion, but she doesn't say why she thought she was going to be killed. Was she fearing a blow, strangulation, like a beating or anything like that? She doesn't explain that very well for me. But I do get this bit. I had nowhere to go. I was trapped in my own house. He wouldn't let me leave. And this is the overall theme of what she says, this feeling of being trapped. And I actually think if you look at her words, the reason that she shot him was she felt trapped in that moment, not scared that she was going to be killed, but that she felt trapped. Whether that goes to self-defense, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but from what I've heard,
I picked up on the same thing. If anybody was in Jay and Bob's chat, I swear I said this. I'm like, Jack, you're such a good teacher here. You're such a good instructor because and like Taryn said this too. Taryn, you said you have problems remembering every word spoken. Yeah. For this, it was maybe, again, the fact that I was multitasking or she was crying through it. So I didn't necessarily hear these words being punched. I was scared to death. I feared for my life. Whatever she said, I felt trapped. So that is where I was like, well, wait, if you're trapped, that doesn't mean you get out and you get your gun out and you shoot someone and you kill someone. That's where I was like, what the hell? And then, but the whole time, by the way, Jack, I was thinking, her story, it hasn't changed. And she did use all of the ownerships with the I did this, I did that. Everything seemed to line up where you said she was speaking in the past tense. It wasn't like she was making things up and then switching to the present tense. That all seemed to be there and add up. And then for me, when I really started to say, hey, this woman was very scared. I think that she really did fear for her life, was also when they started reading the text messages between Doug and his ex-wife. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And then they started to give us context with the dog. But yeah, I was with you initially on this part, thinking, I didn't necessarily see it yet, but continue. Oh, and then sorry, the defense or the prosecution oh my God. The cross-examination was so tough and so horrible that I was like, well,
just in terms of earlier on, the defense counsel says, do you remember anything about the shooting beyond what you have told us? And she says, it's a blur. She doesn't say yes or no. She says it's a blur, which again suggests to me that she does remember things that she's not sharing with us. I think she's doing some self-editing. She's missing some things out. Just on Taryn's point about not remembering everything that's said, I find that really interesting. Is quite often when I'm analyzing deceptive people, particularly in testimony, people who claim, who talk in speech, and so he said to me, ba, 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 end quotes, and I said, da, 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 da. I don't think we really do remember all those things, like so deeply. So I do, when people start using quotes when they're telling stories, I do wonder how much is actually truthful, not truthful in those. Maybe the gist is the same, but do you really remember they use those exact words?
Yeah, no, definitely. Am I frozen for you?
You're a little bit frozen, but I can still hear you.
I am.
While you're
okay.
while you're unfreezing, I'll do the second hard question that her
do
attorney
that.
said.
I'm just gonna reboot. Let me reboot and I'll jump back on. But yes, please do the second hard question while I I reboot.
That's all right. He says, as you sit here today, Ashley, how do you feel about what happened? And she says, horrible. Interesting. She doesn't say I feel horrible. She doesn't take any ownership of it, but she does say horrible. And then it's really interesting to me. He's the father of my child, and someday I have to explain it all to her. And you'll notice there the concern is on herself, is on Ashley. It's not on the child. It's not that I feel horrible about it, because one day our child, his child, is going to learn what happened or find out what happened or what type of person her dad was or what her mum did to her dad. It's the concern is that Ashley herself will have to explain this to her. So I found that really, really interesting as well. It was a concern for herself rather than a stated concern for her daughter. I'm not saying she's not concerned about her daughter. What I am saying is when she was asked how she felt about it, the concern was for herself. Tracy says she will never explain it to her daughter. Tracy, I don't know why you think that. If you could share that, that would be really interesting. Taryn talks about eyewitness testimony being unreliable. Yeah, it is extremely unreliable. There are some very good studies on that as well. Can I find some more things to talk about while we're waiting for Lauren to come back? Rachel says, I'm over here analyzing everything my husband says now that I have been watching Jack. Rachel, I analyzed myself today. I was sending a text in a group chat, and as I pressed send, I realized I was deceptive in the text that I sent. So, Rachel, I analyzed myself. Never mind that. Hi, Lauren. Back to you.
Oh, wait, what did I miss? What did I miss? You just analyzed the...
Yeah, it was the second question of the difficult questions. And it was here today, Ashley, how do you feel about what happened? And she said horrible. She didn't say I feel horrible. She didn't take any ownership of that. And he's the father of my child. Someday I have to explain it all to her. And the concern there was for herself having to explain to the child what happened, rather than the child is going to have to hear this, or the child is going to have the trauma of what her parents did to each other. Basically, the concern was in there for herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I was very compelled to believe Ashley during the cross, watching her body language, watching how upset she was. And again, just going through all of the evidence that the defense put forth with Doug's history, kind of painting him out to be this God man in a negative way. I just felt like all of this really helped me believe her. And this is, again, my opinion. And I've been pretty open about admitting when I was wrong, but it's just funny that everything you said, I thought of initially. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't, right? All I heard was I felt trapped. And I'm like, well, that's not a reason. Something else that still gets me is Ashley, cousin, you married the wrong Benefield cousin or whatever. He had said the night they met Ashley, she had a gun in her bra and she showed them. And she was proud of this gun, it seemed like to me. And it seemed like Doug was aware that she had a gun and she would use it at any point. So that just gave me something to think about here. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like she had the chance to use it probably multiple times and maybe again, if you do believe her, which I do, like she just had it and she hadn't had to use the gun. And now she's like, this is it. I'm done. You're not going to do this to me. So
definite feeling of I'm done. Definite
Yeah.
feeling of feeling trapped. But let's look at something from the prosecution questions. 3 times she's asked this question, and on the third time does she answer it. So she's talking about the struggle that happened, and he hit her on the side of the head. And the prosecutor says, and because of all those things, you claimed you thought he was going to kill you. And she says, he had never hit me before. Okay, and you thought it was going to kill you. He wouldn't let me leave. I tried to leave. He stopped me. The question is, you thought he was going to kill you. And there's a pause, and then she goes, yeah. So twice she's asked, which is, I believe, is the crux of the legal argument, is that she must have felt, she had to have felt that her life was in danger.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say yes. She doesn't. Her instinctive answer isn't, yeah, I thought he was going to kill me. He was violent. He was coming at me. I was terrified that he was going to kill me. Instead, she says he had never hit me before. And then when she's asked again, he wouldn't let me leave. I tried to leave. He stopped me, which is this trapped thing again, which I think is, I really think she shot him as a way out of this trapped feeling that or physically trappedness that she had as well inside the house. And then it's really said with a lack of commitment. The question is, so the prosecutor is saying, I've asked you this twice now. So the question is, you thought he was going to kill you. And then she goes, pause. Yeah. And then again, when she's recounting the scene in her room, he said, you're effing done. And that made you fear for your life. And her answer is, yeah. It's very casual, that yeah. So Joe, I'm really not sure that in that moment she feared for her life rather than just snapped as a result of this trapped feeling. You know, he certainly seemed to be physically imposing himself on her that night, you know, coming towards her. But I think it was that trapped feeling that led her to shoot him.
Right. And it's funny. So Disney is saying she believes she's guilty. 2 things can be true, and her being guilty, but not justified for self-defense. Please. Oh, sorry to pin that. I didn't read the whole thing. You are so entitled to your opinion and nobody should come after you. Oh my gosh. Don't be mad that I pinned that. I thought it was good. Just because I like hearing other people's opinions. Like I really do. And I'm so open to changing my mind based on what I hear and see. But I have to say, I'm a very excitable person. When I talk, I'm passionate. I've been called emotional, which I really fudging hate. I can't say something without being like an emotional female. But if I was on the stand and someone said, well, did you fear for your life? I'd be like, yes. Yes, I feared for my life. I do feel like if I was sitting back and I was like, yeah, that I don't think I would get my point across, but her and I are different. She's got a different demeanor than I do. I am not a ballerina.
Yeah. So, there's a really interesting part. I'm not a body language expert.
Yeah.
But there's a part when the prosecution says to her, let me find it. So you keep shooting again, and he falls down on his back. And she says his legs flew up in the air, and the prosecutor says, okay, where did his legs go? And she, you know, one of those things which in life, when you say something and someone asks you a question and you go, oh, I've just answered that. She goes, yeah, in the air. And then there's a look in her eyes as if to say, I've just bloody answered that. Why are you asking me this again? And it was almost like a slip of the mask, like a stupid woman. Why are you asking me that again? I don't know what it was, but there's a very interesting, like almost as if she just lost the mask for a moment. That there was she was doing this mask of composure or
I'm gonna have to go back and look at this. That's so interesting. Okay, that's really interesting. Like I just told you that. Let me snap back into whatever's going on. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, look, I've got to say, having just looked at her testimony, I haven't looked at any of the other evidence. I don't know the laws on it or anything. I believe that there was abuse. This guy was not a nice person at all. At the same time, if the test in law is, did you fear for your life at that moment? I don't get that from her words. What I get from her words was she snapped because she felt trapped, and she felt like she couldn't get out.
Right.
Whether that was a metaphorical trapped of I'm in this relationship for the rest of my life because we've got a child together, or because she physically was trapped and could not get out of the house at that time. And maybe to her credit, she did say she was trying to get out of the house, and this guy wouldn't let her leave. So you would
Yeah.
snap.
And this is interesting, Rachel. She didn't want him in her daughter's life, and you think she was horribly abused. And I don't know if she's actually guilty, but I don't think the state proved the case. So as a juror, not guilty. Totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you. I thought the state was horrible. Let's see their closing argument. But Sheila, punching the dog, I needed context around that too, because I felt like we didn't get context until the end if we didn't watch any of the pretrial, which I did not. So I guess he punched the dog because he was so angry with her and the dog kind of got in the way. Either way, that's not normal. That is not normal at all. So yeah, that was upsetting.
It was amazing, though. Amazing is maybe not the right word, but interesting how often Ashley mentioned punching the dog in her testimony, as if she knew that was a hot button. This, yes, it's not normal. And the more you can mention this not normal thing of punching a dog until it was unconscious. I mean, what? I believe it happened. I don't think it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But she mentioned it a lot. As if she knew it was a hot button that would get people talking. And, Sheila has gone there. It is a terrible thing because that's really stuck in her mind that happened.
Yeah. And Rachel and Tommy were saying that his ex-wife, or I shouldn't say, sorry, ex-wife, because she passed away, reading those texts, and that got me too. I mean, when they were reading those texts, I could not believe it. I was screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, this really does prove that he had some control issues, some domestic issues. So that was interesting. Disney said, okay, so there could be some exaggeration, which, like Jack said, there's been times that he caught where she's saying something and then she kind of snaps out of it and she's like, what? I just said that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting I've read a lot of people. So I was watching this on like a court TV or law and crime replay, and the chat is going up the side, and it's really split between, oh my God, this is terrible, I believe her, and other folk going, nah, this is rubbish, this is all fake, and her demeanor, they were saying, was put on for an act. Now, I did think I saw the mask slip slightly. I have to say, I thought she was abused, the victim of abuse. Fair, simple, that happened. But I don't know how much she was putting on the posture of abuse and the sort of look of someone that's vulnerable. But I did notice that her demeanor did change. Sometimes she was sitting back in the chair and asking questions, almost looking a little bit zombie, like a little bit out of it and zoned out of it. And at other times she was right there in the moment.
Okay, and Rachel, I so agree with this. I think she was abused as well. But yes, from the minute she was there on the stand, the first day when I already went in thinking she was guilty, and I admit that I did. I went into it and she was just like, it was just very much like, and I felt like her crying was a little forced and strange. And I was like, knowing what I knew about her being 30 years younger. And but I will say it's tough now because you do want to believe people that say they were abused. It must be a horrible thing for people to not believe you and not believe you were abused. And this is a side note. And oh my gosh, thanks, Carrie. You love my shirt. It's Zara from like 20 years ago. Thank you so much. But it's off topic. But if anyone follows my Outlier podcast, I interviewed Armie Hammer's mom, Drew, yesterday. And I was like, this is going to be tough. I knew I was going to get dragged a little bit just because, both sides, the side of Armie's mom and her PR team, if I did anything that was a little bit too, negative towards her. And then I was going to get dragged if I was too nice because of what Armie Hammer did to certain women. So sure enough, I even addressed this in my podcast, my intro, and the woman named Effie, I don't know if you are familiar with this at all, but she's the only one that got him criminally investigated for rape by the LAPD, and they couldn't find anything and they dropped it. And so on the podcast, Army's mom tells me that she believes a lot of his hurt comes from the fact that he was molested as a kid, 13, 14 years old, by a youth pastor. So this woman, Effie, on Twitter, you guys can go to the thread. I think I'm going to do a video after this just for members only, because I just don't want drama and I don't want whatever, but just members only. I'll just take you through some of the stuff that she says. And she talks about, why should anyone believe Army about getting molested? Why should they? And I'm like, well, I'm not saying this, but like people could easily say, why should people believe you then if he didn't get charged? I don't get this. Like it's like you're all making no sense. You're all contradicting each other and you're all being hypocritical. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, what is wrong with everybody? Like
someone said it very clearly in the comments earlier. I've lost my words here. It's possible that two things are true at the same time, that hideous things can have happened to someone and they're not telling the truth about something now. These things, it's a world of all sorts of grays and all sorts of experiences. And I think sometimes in the comments section, I love the comments you've got going on, because I've got people going, I think this, but I do think that. I think this may have happened and this may have happened. The people here seem to be able to see things in the whole and see all sorts of possibilities. And if you sit back and do it, I was doing some private work with someone recently, and the issue started off with someone having some issues with their a close family member, shall we say?
Yeah.
And so we peeled away at that and looked at the communication and what was really going on there. And then she said, I need to tell you something else a bit extra. And then you go back to another story. So the close family member that has been treating her badly has also been treated badly at some point in her life. And, it carries on. So, but we are all responsible for our actions in this world. Lots of people do suffer abuse and don't go on to be abusers, and manage to find ways out of it and ways of coping. So it's just the world is not black and white.
No, you're right. And that was part of it. Army's mom was definitely like, she's a mother. I mean, I was talking to her like mom to mom here, and she was definitely making excuses for him. Hurt people. This was his way of medicating. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. He was pretty terrible to women. But again, it's just like, who am I to sit here and be like, you're not telling the truth and you're not telling the truth? I'm not going to do that. I mean, it sounds awful, but just really quick, and this is another thing off topic, and I don't generally pay attention to the outside drama. However, I was fascinated with Turtle Boy chatting with Paul O'Keefe, Officer John O'Keefe's, the late John O'Keefe's brother. There's just one thing I want to point out to you, Jack. I had screenshotted it last night and I debated bringing it up, but I just am so curious about this. So I thought it was interesting that they start talking and Paul O'Keefe says something to Turtle Boy and says that he is going to end up in jail. And he wants to remind Turtle Boy of where he's going, which is jail, whatever. They get into this conversation, you're going to jail, blah, blah, blah. And then they get into, they make up kind of whatever. They go through all of this. And then Paul says, are you going to apologize for attacking me and saying I'm a disgrace to my brother, who is also my best friend? That made me very sad. I got very upset. Yeah. And Aiden says, yes, I do. I know you love John. Please understand that as hard as this is to understand, we all want justice for John. We truly believe Karen is not the one who killed him. I'm very passionate about what I do, and not all of my supporters agree with my tactics. Meredith is always telling me to be nicer to you. I think we both ultimately want the same thing, justice. And then Paul says, I respectfully disagree with you. Karen did do this. I understand your position and appreciate your passion. I wish you were on my side, though. Now, let me just preface really quick with what I thought, and I'm thinking of you. I don't think Paul thinks that Karen is ever going to jail. That's what I took from that. He started this conversation with like, you're going to jail, Aiden. We're going to put you there. When they get to talking about Karen, it's never about, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't wait to see her behind bars. It's all about Turtle Boy. And then when they kind of make up here, and look, I'm hoping this is real. I'm hoping that, you know, I think it's real. They kind of said it is, they validated it, but I'm looking at this and I'm just like, wow, this is, I can't stop myself from analyzing this because of you.
Thanks.
Because I'm just like, he says Karen did do this. So, okay, well, why aren't you like, I can't wait to put her behind bars? You know what I mean? I guess I'm just like, I don't know.
Look, number one, I ignore anything Karen Reid related. I still look at my Twitter feed and just see people going, and so Karen turned up at Fairview Road at this time. I'm like,
I know,
oh
and
my
I'm
God.
sorry. This is just language, right? It's language. So I'm just like, yeah. Hi, Sal.
I haven't analyzed that. I didn't even think it was real when I saw that appear this morning.
Okay.
Sorry, but I mean, I thought Turtle Boy, not known for always telling the truth or known for a lot of exaggerations. So if he's saying he's talked to Paul O'Keefe, I'm not going to spend any time of my life thinking about that. So I put it to one side. What I will say is that Paul O'Keefe was one of the first people to give evidence in the Karen Reid trial. And I didn't say very much about it at the time because this guy's brother has been killed and I really didn't want to make a big drama-rama out of all of this. Right. But I think that from the evidence, I really thought he wanted Karen to pay for this to the point where he was turning up some of his testimony to 11. I'm not saying he was lying, but there was a point, forgive me if I get this quite wrong, but he said in the hospital, Karen said, and then stopped and says, she screamed. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Why did you start with said? And now you're trying to make it seem more emotional to make Karen, I think one of the things we saw was that there was a lot of evidence from that side of things trying to make Karen sound hysterical. You spoke about the emotional woman earlier. The hysterical seemed to be the word there. And I don't know if there was collusion between them or not, but they really wanted to get across the fact that morning Karen was manic, hysterical. And Paul did that little slip in his testimony, which I thought was otherwise believable. And that just made me think, is this very personal for him? Maybe he says he genuinely believes that Karen did this, but has it become personal for him so that, again, I'm just going on what you said, but if Turtle Boy is, I can't believe I'm standing up for Turtle Boy. I really don't want to do this. If he's saying we all want justice for John,
it's not about. It's not. This is just about the statements of Paul. I just wanted to really understand. Like, I feel like he doesn't think Karen's going to jail.
Well, you've got to look at, and I'm just going in the memory of what you said to me there, but Turtle Boy does said, we all want justice for John. Now, that's a slightly sleazy, manipulative statement, which is trying to get someone on side. I want justice for John. No, you don't. You want Karen Reid to be freed so you can say you're the big hero that did this. But Paul says, basically, words to the effect of, I want Karen done for it, which is different than justice for John.
He says, Karen did do this. He doesn't say anything. Yeah, he just says, I will respectfully disagree with you. Karen did do this. I understand your position and I appreciate your passion. I wish you were on my side, though. So I was just like, wow, it seems like Paul might recognize that the state's case wasn't good. The state is not going to be the one that puts Karen behind bars. That's how I interpreted this because of you. I sat there and I stayed up way too late. And I was just like, what the heck? But yeah.
What I'll do, I'll have a look at that because there's something in there that really does bug me about Paul's response. I'll put it in the comments once this is finished. Just
that would be amazing. What I see. So that would be.
if you're watching live, you can have to watch again to see it in the comments. Lauren will get all the hits and it'll be fantastic.
You're so good to me. Thank you. And yeah, like there's more, but I screenshotted a bunch of it because again, this was late at night. I couldn't sleep and I was like trying to analyze every single word. And I'm just like, man, this is, yeah, I know it's a lot, but I wanted to get quickly, wait, oh, Carrie saying, so that's him saying, oh, right. Yeah, got it. I want to get quickly to Jonbenet before the jury comes back and they have the closing arguments. But please, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the 911 call. Patsy Ramsey has always given me the sketch factor. And this is the number one thing I think she said in an interview. I don't know if you'll bring this up, but when she referred to her murdered, beautiful girl, she called her that child. And that always got me. That child. What?
Well, yeah, in the 911 call, we have the same thing, which is distance and a real passivity to what happened.
Yes.
And the biggest thing I got from going through the 911 call was the most important thing that Patsy has to say in this 911 call is they have a note. Not my daughter's missing. Not I cannot find my daughter anywhere. It's we've got a note. She said, we have a kidnapping. Not my daughter's been kidnapped. Please help, my daughter's been kidnapped. Or someone's got my daughter. No, we have a kidnapping. Hello. You know, it's very, very passive.
Yep.
She says, there's a note left and our daughter's gone. So note before daughter, not our daughter's gone and someone's left a note. She never mentions who left the note. You know, like you would say, someone has got my daughter and they've left a note. Never, ever, ever. How long ago was this? The 911 operator says to her, she says, I don't know. I just got the note and my daughter's gone. So the note is the center of this call.
I forgot about that. That's so awkward.
And does it say who took her? I don't know. Well, that note actually does say who took her. So I don't know why you answered no. But there's a ransom note here. So it's a very nuanced case. It's not a very nuanced 911 call. There's no concern for her daughter there expressed at all. There was a lot of urgency. Please help, please send someone. So there is urgency. But the most important thing she wants to get across is we've got a note. Now, I'm not saying this is what happened, but if you know that something has happened to your daughter and you have to cover it up by staging a kidnapping, the biggest thing in your head will be, it's a kidnapping, and we know that because we've just written a note. So we're just going to talk about the note. That's going to be the centerpiece of your story is the note,
right?
Not the fact that your daughter is gone. And the centerpiece of that 911 call is the note. It's really, really worrying. Excuse me, horrible cough again. I didn't get the sense from the call that she was hiding her own actions, but there was absolute sense of distance. At one point, someone in the comments made this, in the comments of my video said, she's asked, who are you? And she says, I'm the mother.
The mother.
Which was interesting because I believe that I think Patsy lived her life vicariously through Jonbenet, putting her through these pageants, dressing her up as an adult, or you know, making her look like a grown. Sometimes when I see this story, by the way, I cannot believe how young Jonbenet was and the way they dressed her. It's horrible.
I know. And you're so right. The mother. You know that my own mom does that about, like, she would do that when I was in high school about like friends that she didn't give a shit about or that she didn't care about or didn't think much of that would get me in trouble. She'd be like, are you going out with the friend? I'm like, the friend? You know her fucking name. Like, you know what I mean? Like, excuse my language. Yeah, it's like, come on. I knew what she was doing there. Like, I knew exactly. So that, I didn't catch that. That is so bad. That is
I'm
so
the
bad.
mother. I wonder if that was her position in life, the mother. So Jonbenet gets all this attention when she goes to these shows and she's a beautiful girl or she's a captivating girl or she's an impressive girl or anything like that. Jonbenet has all the attention and Patsy's status in life comes from being the mother. Let's talk to the mother. So yeah, again, really complex things have gone on there. I think that whatever happened was not straightforward and simple, But the
Yes.
fact that the focus was the note. We have a note here, not someone has left a note, not my daughter has gone and they've left a note behind. The person who left the note is never mentioned in her 911 call at all. No concern. The note says that she's going to die if you don't play along with what we say. So if that was true and you'd read that, you'd be going, geez, I'm really worried about this. This is real. But none of that comes through. It's just, we've got a note. The most important thing is we've got a note. There's some other elements where I think I see this a lot in 911 calls. If you listen to a 911 call of someone who is genuinely reporting a crime, they just roll with what's there. Ask a question, answer the question, or say, I don't know, or say, I need to think about that. And they just go with it there. When someone has been deceptive and prepared for a 911 call, so right, I'm going to call them and this is my story and this is what I'm going to tell them. As soon as they are asked a question that is not inside the story that they have constructed, then it falls apart entirely for them. They have to ask to repeat the question, or they will answer with something that doesn't answer the question, but it's part of the prepared story where they're very comfortable with. And there's elements of that in this 911 call as well, that she's got something that she wants to say to them. She's got a message, a story that she wants to get across. And towards the end of the call, she just seems to panic because these questions are coming at her that she has no prepared answer for.
Right. And I, when I first heard that and I started diving into all of this, I just took that as like, she knows what's going on, and whether or not she was involved or it's something that went wrong that shouldn't have, because she, like, knowing what we know about Patsy Ramsey now, I feel like it was anything for attention. Oh, let's set up, and again, speculation, opinion, this is not conclusive, but like, let's set up a kidnapping for my daughter so she makes the 10 o'clock news, and then she's going to be super famous and we're going to be flown on like Oprah and Dr. Phil and all these shows. Oh shit, you killed my daughter. Why did you go that far? What? Yeah. So these are scenarios that have played out in my head. Pure speculation, no truth to that, but
Yeah, that would fit. Apart from one thing, which she never mentions Jonbenet's name in the call, which could be distancing. At the same time, it's not pertinent information to the call. She's never asked the name of the daughter. And if you think about it, the help that you need when you call 911 is someone to get here as quickly as possible. Here's the situation, which is a young girl is missing and there's a ransom note. Her name doesn't change the response at that time. She does give her own name, but she has asked her own name. She's never asked the name of Jonbenet. So I would think that theory does work, apart from the fact of getting her name out. I don't know, work.
I mean, why wouldn't you say? I don't know about that though, Jack. I think regardless, you're going to say your child's name on a 911 call if they're missing, or you're going to scream it. I don't know. Sorry, the F-bombs are coming out today. I don't know what's wrong with me.
You never do this on the breakfast show, the
no,
breakfast time,
I don't.
do you?
And I think it's because I'm like in a mood, and I'm like, I hate the online drama sometimes that I choose to ignore. I'm getting like dinged from like that Effie person. I will do a video after. But so John Ramsey, her dad, was at CrimeCon this year, and he gave like some kind of, I don't know if anybody in the chat was at CrimeCon, but I purposely didn't go to his breakout room because I'm not super convinced that he has been truthful. Not saying that he has anything to do with it, but like I've never been convinced of his genuine. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. I'm at a loss for words right now, but yeah,
I saw him there. It made me uncomfortable. A lot about CrimeCon makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But what I do think is that
oh my God.
you see some people there who are there standing up for victims. So maybe victims of crime like they are themselves. Was he doing that? Was he talking up for parents of murdered children, or parents who have been falsely accused in the true crime community, or was
he was literally talking
himself?
about his daughter's case. And there was somebody that he was with, he was paired with someone. Now I can't remember. I cannot remember, but I also was just like, nah, I'm gonna not be a part of this just because I was like, I feel weird. What is this? Lauren versus Alan Jackson match upcoming soon. Oh, is this because of my my rants? And I just go off the cuff. And then Rachel said, just back to Ashley Benefield. Where are you, Rachel? I saw disassociative. Yeah, all that blinking. I that was part of what I was curious about, the blinking with the, is she acting? I definitely noticed that too. Absolutely. And Carrie, thank you for saying passionate and not emotional. I really appreciate you.
I just talking of members only, I did a members only one today where I went on a rant about the word hysterical, because when did you last hear a man called hysterical? And it was in the context of the Patsy Ramsey 911 call, and someone said she's choosing the word she's choosing because she's hysterical. When did you last hear a man accused of being hysterical? And hey, the pretty little man's not really saying what he thinks, and he's just getting his words all jumbled up because he's hysterical. No, we for some reason seem to think that men can just talk and say all the right words at the right times, no matter what's going on around them. Women get hysterical, so they mess stuff up. It's it's not right.
You're so right. You're so right about that. And I literally love that you just said that. I don't remember what, I think I was doing some show and I honestly try not to read comments. Like on Nancy Grace, I don't necessarily read any of the comments. I really, it's not worth it. I think one day I wanted to just do some self-torture. I don't know why, but I ended up reading some of the comments about me on another show. Maybe it was like STS or something, but they were like, don't have Lauren on again. She's way too emotional. She's way too, and I'm just like, what? I feel like you have to be a man in a tie and have a law degree, or else you can't, like, I know that I'm not cookie cutter. I fully understand that. I am not your mother's reporter, your mother's commentator. I get that. It works for some people. It doesn't work for some people, but stop going to the emotional things. Stop going there.
It's so sexist because I will never, people could comment anything they like about me, and they do, but they will not say he's too emotional. They never ever will say he's too emotional. And I lose it every now and again. And people really hack me off that I'm analyzing. And I will go, "Rah." People love that. Oh, he's let a bit of passion show through. Yeah, he's really going for it and saying what he thinks. Whereas you're too emotional.
I am. If I say what I think, oh my gosh. And look at my head moves. And by the way, I have a musical theater degree. So there you go. But really, it's just so funny. I saw a comment on, someone posted on your Instagram or something. And it just, this is when you just like hate people. I'm sorry. Like, you have so many fans, so many, and everything that you say and do, like, you have disclaimers. Like, this is my expert opinion on this. You don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to take it or leave it. But some guy was just like, I'm not a fan, but I fully agree with you on this. If you're not a fan, why do you follow Jack then? Like, why do you, so you can go to the post that you don't agree with and just like disparage him? It's annoying. And people are just like, so, I don't know. I think I'm just having one of those moments on social media stuff, but thank you, Sal. I'm going to all of these STSs, but oh my God, really? I didn't know that. Thank you so much. Well, I don't think anyone liked me on that show. I'll just put it out there. I mean, I could be wrong, but they haven't asked me back. So, oh yeah, Taryn, I get that. The Southern accent. And Jack sounds super smart with his Scottish accent. Or what, you have a British accent? Scottish.
No, this long story, but I'm Scottish. I was brought up in Scotland, but I've lived in England for 20 plus years. So English people think I sound Scottish. Scottish people think I sound English. It's a complete mixture.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I love it. I literally love it. And listen, I also don't want to, I wasn't saying anything negative about the show. It's a great show. I was just making fun of myself. It was mainly about myself that I don't think anyone liked me. That. But what was this? John's Christmas bonus. What is this? John's Christmas bonus of 118 grand was from 1995 and on each of his pay stubs for the year. Oh, are we talking about John Ramsey? I didn't know that. If that's Jack, are you aware of that? Okay.
Yeah, his Christmas bonus was either exactly or just very, very close to the amount of ransom that was asked for in the ransom note.
I got it. Okay, thank you. And yes, Sherry, Jack is very sharp, and I'm also in New York, so holler to whatever 212, whatever area
Oh,
you're in.
can I just do an apology then? Cheryl in NY, I called you Sherilyn when I mentioned your comment earlier in a video that I
Oh,
did. So apologies, Cheryl in NY. I called you Sherilyn.
do you know, I just like leaned in when you did. I don't know why. I was like copying you. I was like, oh, are we leaning? I guess we're leaning.
Let's lean in.
Yeah,
That
and
was my sincere lean in to apologize.
that was, and a body language expert. Sorry, we're at the hour, and I'm sure the jury's coming back in. But the body language expert told me that if you slowly lean like that, it means you're an extrovert. I don't know if you've heard that before, but it just means like,
No.
yeah, it means that you want to be part of this conversation. You are interested. Last thing, Jack, from Rachel. Tell me why Ireland is separate in the Olympics and why Great Britain didn't decide to be the UK for the Olympics.
Okay, right. Here we go, Rachel. Ireland is a separate country from the UK and Great Britain. Great Britain competes in the Olympics, which is actually Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. But for some reason, they call themselves Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Ireland is a separate country which competes on its own in the Olympics. Very complex. I mean, a lot of blood has been shed over that argument. But Ireland is a country, a lovely place to go to, by the way. Ireland's such a nice country, as is Northern Ireland, even though they are slightly divided.
Wow. Love
You didn't
that.
understand a word of that, did you?
No, that's a great explanation. And yes, very well explained, Jack. Just curious, you guys, because I'm not watching. Has the jury come back yet? Or is that a no? I'm trying to think. I flip-flop where you were born. At times you sound like it was closer to Edinburgh than Glasgow, which might be in England. That's funny.
CH, dead quickly. That's very Scottish. I was born in Glasgow and then spent quite a bit of time working with people from Edinburgh. So I picked up a lot of their accent because I thought some of it was actually more Fife than Edinburgh, but I thought that was a beautiful accent. I just found myself mimicking them sometimes. Also, that accent is much easier understood than my Glasgow accent, which if you heard me talking that, you wouldn't understand a word I said.
I just love your accent no matter what it is. I wish I
Thank
had
you.
one. I wish I didn't. Yeah, I wish I didn't sound like this. But Rachel says, goes back to look at map. Okay, so Jack, you were gonna put your analysis of the Turtle Boy and Paul O'Keefe text. And I just, again, I want to be clear. I don't want to be cruel. I don't want to be immersed in any sort of drama. This is purely statements, and analyzing that. And again, I found this so fascinating, this chat and this whatever, and just the fact that this is still going on. But actually, that's getting too into the drama. We don't want that.
No drama.
We just want statements. So, yeah, we are going to catch the closing arguments in the Benefield trial, and I'm wondering. I feel like, I don't know. What do you guys think? A day or two to come back? We'll see. We'll see. I know.
Yeah, I hate to be in that jury having to make that decision.
I know, me too. I said I'd hate to be on that jury, but if you want more also of some of my drama that I'm going to do a video on for my members only, yeah, join my channel, be a monthly member, like it and subscribe if you haven't already, and also go to Jack's channel if you guys haven't. Never a Truer Word videos. It's tagged in the episode notes. It's amazing. I'm obsessed with it, and I literally stay up at night watching it when I can't sleep. So anyway, I guess we're done. That we've gone 3 minutes over for lunch. So,
that's not bad for a 45-minute one, is it?
I know. I could literally talk to you forever, but we'll have to do this tomorrow. Sorry, yes, tomorrow. Next week. I'll contact you. Okay.
Let's get a date.
You know that I contact you every week, but anyway. Thank you.
Literally, people, I was driving back from a vacation yesterday when she texted me, "Could you come on tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, all right."
Well, I just figured, I'm like, the trial's going to be basically done. We got to talk about this. So yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Bye.